Thank you everybody for joining us today. This is day 2 of our online open house. And today the session will feature specifically the MFA painting program, and we're joined by the graduate program director, Kelly Ann, who's also a faculty member in the department, correct, Kelly Ann?
Yes.
Okay, perfect. And a couple of students will be joining us as well. With that, I'll turn it over to Mina.
Hi, everyone. It's so strange to talk to my own face, so forgive me if I ramble a little bit. But I'm really happy to be here with you and excited to answer any questions you might have. I'm just gonna give you like a kind of brief overview of the program. Kelly, feel free to interrupt me at any time. And then we have 2 second-year students who are going to join us in about 5 minutes to also talk about their experience here. And then we can I want to kind of leave as much time for questions as possible. So we have about, I think at this point, close to 300 painting majors between the undergrads and grads. Is that true, Kelly? That seems like a huge number, but I think that's true.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we have like a very robust program of a large community of painting heavy makers. Um, Generally, RISD runs on something of a like trimester kind of schedule. So there's a fall and spring semester, and then there's also a winter session for all of January. So this is a time that you're not required to anymore, but you can take a class and kind of just focus in on your work. The first semester is often really curriculum heavy. So it's a very intensive, immersive way to start. It's like super intense at the beginning, and then it kind of lightens up towards the spring. Your first semester, your first year, you take a drawing class with Kelly or one of the other core faculty members, and an excellent prints project class. And then there's a studio crit class that each faculty kind of runs differently. And then there's also the grad program director, me, floats and does studio visits with you as well. So you have a lot of contact with a lot of faculty. Um, in the beginning of the fall, it can be you're kind of managing all these classes and managing time management and settling into how to kind of figure out how to manage your studio practice as well as the classes. It's like bumpy the first couple of weeks, but once you get into a rhythm, it's really, really powerful and kind of amazing to see how much you can do. It's a really fast-paced environment. What else? I have notes that I'm making sure I don't miss anything. By the time you get to the spring semester, your first year, you're taking 2 classes, meaning in the medium, also usually with the core faculty member, where you're exploring conceptual ideas about painting and the philosophies and sociopolitical theories in relationship to contemporary approaches to art practices. And kind of, actively dismantling more hegemonic ideas about painting as a medium. So there is absolutely a very post-colonial, decolonizing, intersectional feminist approach within this course. What else? You're also taking another crit class with a core faculty member, and the GPD is grad program director. Me is still floating and doing studio visits. In your second, so that's like the first year. It's a really making heavy year. You're also getting a lot of theory. By the time you get to your second year, you are continuing with your core crit class. You're also taking this amazing class that we've designed called Three Critics, where we invite 3 different critics to campus for month-long engagements with you. That includes a field trip, often to New York. We've invited people like Jared Ernest and Ajay Kurian and Precog Magazine. And yeah, it's a really amazing time to kind of connect with a critic, historian, cultural um, analyst as a maker. So you're taking that your first semester, second year, as well as an elective or two. Sorry, you're also taking electives during this whole time. I'm talking about like the core painting classes, but you can also elect to take RISD classes in addition. So you have to take at least 12 credits to be a full, full-time student at RISD. You can take up to 15 credits, which most people do because the classes here are amazing. So it's an opportunity, if you want to learn how to weld or blow glass or want to get really deep into printmaking and do lithography or something, this is a great time to kind of use an elective to tap into the amazing resources and makers and experts that we have here on campus. You can also take classes at Brown. It's a little trickier because they have like a different kind of academic schedule. And the registrar, you have to kind of manage a relationship between the registrars, but it is absolutely possible, and many of our students do that too. Your spring semester of your second year, you're working towards your thesis, which involves a big show on campus at a beautiful convention center downtown. And you're writing a really special text alongside your thesis that's not just a standard artist statement or a research paper. It's kind of a artwork in and of itself, and it's an opportunity for you as artists to really spend time developing language alongside your practice. And you're also working with a core critic and having visits with your faculty member. I'm off of my notes, sorry. So in addition to these classes, we have a really robust visiting artists program. So we have 3 or 4 visiting artists come each semester, and that we do those artists have studio visits with each of the students. By lottery. So each student gets at least 2, usually more like 3, sometimes 4 studio visits throughout the year. This semester, we just had Rochelle Feinstein, Nicole Eisenman, Byron Kim. In the spring, we have Sangram Majumdar, Lou Fertino coming. Last year, we had Mark Handelman, Josephine Halverson, Tammy Nguyen. Anyway, it's like a amazing, amazing program, and we try to invite artists who the students are requesting and who we think will be really, really helpful for the specific cohort at the specific time. So it's very much catered to you and your needs. Um, what else? The classes also have visiting artists. So you have a lot of contact with a wide range of people. Um, Um, let's see. It's one thing that's like really important to know about our program versus other programs, is that we're not we don't have a residency kind of structure. It's a really robust program where we ask you to do a lot, and we know that you can do a lot. So we really while you're here, you're really going to want to fill yourself up with as many resources as possible. You're not going to just be making in your studio, having someone coming in every once in a while. You're going to be in class, you're going to be making, and you're going to gain so much knowledge in the 2 years that you're here that you'll be able to unpack for the rest of your lives. Our intention is very much to set you up with a lifelong painting practice where your inquiries are deepened both in terms of material exploration as well as conceptual investigation. It's not a finishing school by any means. Our goal is not to pump out gallery ready, really clean work, although of course that happens all the time. Our goal is really to um, work alongside you to develop your practice to its fullest capabilities in the short amount of time that you have here. It's only 2 years, so we really try to use the time as best as possible. Um, in terms of like medium specificity, which we always get questions about, um, we are a painting program. We're like totally committed to and invested in the medium of painting. We all kind of think through the lens of painting, but we kind of think of it as a big bracket. So a lot of people are making sculptures, videos, performance work, also, writing. All other mediums are more than welcome within this big bracket umbrella idea of painting. Um, it's kind of like the aesthetic or the value system that we'll be looking at the work through. Um, the walls are kind of unfortunately like higher between departments than we want them to be, although they're starting to become much more porous. We do make sure to have printmaking very regularly within our program. All of the grad studios are in the same building, so you're like working in proximity with the sculpture students, glass students, photo students, ceramic students. That said, like one of the most amazing things about RISD is how much you are fully immersed and invested in your medium while also being encouraged to kind of like reach beyond it in order to challenge um, the core values of painting. Oh, good, our two students are here too. That's amazing. Jennifer, did you see that chat? Cool, awesome. um, what else? While you're a student in the grad program, you're also a teaching assistant for one of the faculty members teaching the undergrad RISD students, which is really one of the most amazing learning experiences because our RISD undergrads are our one faculty, Angela Dufresne, calls them like the Ferraris of art students. They're just incredible makers who have like gone through the rigorous foundation program at RISD and are like, committed to the medium of painting as well. So you'll be TAing for a sophomore painting class, junior painting class, or materials or fundamentals classes, among other things. And it's a great chance for you to have contact with students who have kind of like only been making their whole lives. They're just like, born and raised makers. And it's a great chance for you to work really, really closely with the faculty member. And a lot of our students are interested in teaching and become really amazing teachers after their time here. So that you can kind of like, develop pedagogical approaches with the faculty member in a really intimate way, which is a super rare thing that doesn't happen in most other programs. I can keep rambling, but maybe Kelly, I feel like I probably missed stuff. Do you want to add anything?
I would just add the part of the TA. You also have the opportunity to be a gallery assistant. So we have a gallery committee that usually consists of about 2 to 3 faculty, and usually 2 to 3 grad students who are gallery assistants. And we, throughout the year, we have like a schedule of shows that we put on, and you're also part of that as well.
Yeah, it's really nice. We're all sitting, except for Kelly, maybe, sitting in the main painting department building, where all the undergraduate are kind of oriented and the painting office is. The grad building is maybe like a 7-minute walk away. The galleries are like housed inside of like the belly of the painting building. So it's like such an amazing way to have a show alongside the classroom. I really haven't seen it in any other place like this. And we do like open calls with the students. The student shows are often places where grad students and undergrads are showing together and making contact. Um, in addition to those showing opportunities, the RISD Museum has a student gallery that's great that also does an open call. And then students are also doing like we have or maybe it just came down, the painting triennial show at Woods Gary Gallery, which is a RISD wide space that maybe our students can talk to too. What else? Sorry, we invited Golden Paints to do a workshop today. That's happening like directly above me right now. Sorry if I talked really fast. I was like in go mode. Um,
No problem. I'm dropping the links for all of the gallery spaces.
cool, thank
So
you.
those looks. There's also, I'm not sure if you mentioned this, the Gelman Gallery as well.
Yeah.
In the RISD Museum that is open to the public, which is nice. And that's student-led exhibition space as well.
Yeah.
All right, perfect. All right.
Maybe if Princeton is want to talk a little bit about your time here. I talked like really rapidly about the program and curriculum, so feel free to, don't feel like you missed anything. Feel free to be redundant if you want. Yeah.
I'll just chime in too real quick. If anybody, you can start putting questions in the Q&A, and we can start like working through those. But for Princeton and Is, a question to kick you guys off with is, what drew you to the RISD's MFA painting program specifically?
Sure. Hi, I'm Iz. I'm a second-year painter, as is Princeton. I kind of happened upon RISD in kind of like a funny way. I was living in Providence already. I moved here after undergrad, and everyone asked me like, "Oh, are you trying to go to RISD?" And I was like, "No, I just happened to be here." And then when I was applying to schools, I applied to a variety of schools, mostly for like the rigor of the program. And RISD is a very rigorous program, so that's the main reason I applied here. And then when I miraculously got in and got to tour, I was like super in awe of what the students were making here. It felt different than any of the other programs that I was able to go see in that sense. And sort of like the community that's able to be like oriented around 11 of us in our studio spaces, sharing studios and being in dialogue with each other a lot. And then obviously our faculty is amazing as well. I really like that there's not like any standout faculty member, that they're all like really amazing. So instead of like feeling like I have a mentor, I feel like I get to engage with like all these different voices. So yeah.
Yeah, so I was looking for something very specific. I guess as we all were in a grad school, which was like a curriculum, like not to be just be like a residency, like specialized courses I could take in the kind of crafts of painting, and like traditional oil painting practices, and like a really deep like roster of faculty. Like as was saying, like a lot of programs will just have like one or two like standout faculty that people will go for. And sometimes they'll be on sabbatical, and sometimes they get a residency, and then you go and they won't be there. But the roster here is so deep, and there's always like there's so many amazing people, not only on faculty, but just in the department in general. And this was like this is kind of the only program that fit all of those criteria. Yeah, so I did also apply to like a variety of schools, but once I got in here, it was like my decision was already made.
Yeah, I feel like it was a no-brainer for me once I visited.
Yeah. And I've been working here for like a long time, so.
There, yeah, I feel so grateful to be part of this faculty. We work really well together, and we really look out for each other and collaborate with each other, and we like brainstorm as a group about each of the students often, and try to make sure everybody has contact with the people we think they need to have contact with. So there's like a lot of individual attention. I've taught at a lot of places, and I've never worked this hard anywhere else. And I love working this hard. There was a question about
I get lots of attention. So like unlike any other school, we get lots of attention.
A lot.
Maybe too much. It's only 2 years.
It's only 2 years. Exactly. It's like 2 years.
It looks like we have a few questions. Can you talk about winter session courses and the opportunity to teach your own course during this time? What is the process of applying to teach a course, and how many grad students typically do this?
Maybe do you want to talk about that?
Sure, yeah, I'd love to. So your first year, you both have to and get to take a class for winter session. And these classes are like a wide range, and it's one of the main opportunities to take classes outside of the program. So I would recommend best using it to take a class in like sculpture or theory or something that you don't usually get to engage with, because you get a lot of painting oriented courses already in the curriculum. And then last fall, as first years, we got the opportunity to pitch a class. And we went through like an extensive process for those of us who did want to teach a winter session class in our second year. And I feel very grateful that my friend and I were selected to co-teach a class. So in a few weeks, we're going to be teaching a class that's painting oriented, but it also involves performance and writing. It's called The Diary, the Voyeur. And it was like, it's just really awesome. Our class filled up in like an hour with the undergrads wanting to take it, and we have like a wait list of 10 people. So it feels like a very special opportunity that we get, that I genuinely don't know of any other program that lets you do that. And it's like kind of amazing to leave the program with a class that I've designed and have like some intellectual property to like go out into the world with.
I will say, like, very quickly, on the other hand, like, I didn't study painting in undergrad, and so it was mostly like a self-taught, as I guess all painters are ultimately, but like teaching myself like painting outside of academia. And so it was really important for me to like get a really technical painting class. It was called like painting from observation marathon, which is like 5 days a week, 5 hours a day for 5 weeks. And it really like gives you the tools and like the confidence to be able to like approach painting in a variety of ways, especially if you don't feel like you have the same like haven't had the same like technical training.
Yeah, I do feel like people get here and I think we all had a little bit of like imposter syndrome because everyone is such a good painter. So it didn't feel like competition, but it did. I'm sure Princeton kind of can attest to like taking that class really like helped with that. I will say the other winter sessions that aren't painting marathon are only 2 or 3 days a week. For not all 5 days a week.
Yeah, it's especially intense class.
Yeah.
Another question. What does a typical week look like for MFA painting students in terms of studio time versus class time?
It's really different week to week. I will say this week is a particularly full week. So I had class yesterday from 1 to 6, and then 6 to 8, we had a project that was like all of the grad students together. And then today from 9:30 to 12, we have Golden visiting. And then from 1 to 6, I have class. And then from 6 to 8, we have a project. And so this week is very busy. But not every week looks like that. There's some weeks where I'm like very lonely and I'm in my studio painting, but it's like very necessary. And then other weeks where we are just like together 24/7 nonstop. But it's all really kind of things that will never happen again. This week we were in New York for a class. So yeah, I mostly just feel like super grateful for everything. Even though I will say I get 8 hours of sleep every day, and sometimes that just like cuts into my studio time a little bit, but I know that I'll have a lot of time after this to continue making work as well.
Yeah, I feel like no matter what is happening, you're gonna be really busy. Like if it's not like this week, or a week where there's a visiting artist or something where there are external, there are things that are even like outside of class time that you need to show up for. That time is then usually spent in the studio. So I always feel like no matter what's happening, if it's like a chill week or if it's like a busy week, it's like you're just like working a lot. And obviously like you want to get the most out of the program while you're here. So you're going to be in the studio constantly. And yeah, it's like I should be getting 8 hours of sleep. I don't. Some people sacrifice sleep. Some people sacrifice. It depends on like what you want to prioritize, when you want to let go of. And I think like you have to make some like really just like really adult decisions when you get here.
Yeah, you're gonna learn how to manage your time exceptionally well and be really ready to like be in the world after graduating. I will say, yeah, this like on-off thing is definitely, I think, part of it, where I think the summer between the 2 years is like a really magical time where you don't have a million people bothering you all the time and you have access to your studio and you can kind of decompress and process everything that happened your first year and come into the second year semester really ready to go. I think winter session also maybe functions a little bit like that, but you guys tell me if I'm wrong. It depends, I guess, on what kind of class you're taking. But yeah. Wait, I wanted to say something about, oh yeah, the studios. So the studios are amazing. Your first year, you get, I feel like someone asked about square footage via email once. You get around like 175 square feet, I think. And they're kind of like divided double spaces. So you get really close to your first year cohort as a result of working in close proximity. The walls do go all the way up to the ceiling, but there is like an opening between the two spaces. So I think they're more private than a lot of grad studios I've seen, but not totally private. And then in your second year, you get like a massive private studio that's like so beautiful. And that's really a magical time to have that space. Yeah. I'm really jealous of your studios.
I think we have a question in the chat actually. For Princeton is, how has your work changed since coming to RISD?
Okay,
I think this is like the hardest question to answer, and I remember asking it when I was applying, but it's just like, you don't know what's gonna happen.
Yeah.
And I don't know, I don't, like, it's changed a lot, but like, I don't have, like the language to talk about the way it's changed, like materially it's changed, conceptually it's changed, logistically it's changed.
Yeah.
We're just making so quickly that I think it's inevitable that you're gonna like come away with a million things and a million directions that you can go in. I don't know if that's a helpful, I know it's like not a satisfying answer. Do you have
Yeah.
a satisfying answer?
I just feel like I feel like what's the most important is that you're like, no matter where you are and like where you feel you are in your practice, whether you feel like you have like a very set way that you work or you don't, or like you have a very set process or you don't, you have very set subject matter, you don't, is that you just are open, especially in the beginning, open to like change and experimenting. And I feel like that is like coming in with like that mindset and like open to all the different possibilities is what is going to enable you to get the most out of the program and also change your practice and evolve your practice in ways that you wouldn't have imagined. I think a lot of us are making work that aesthetically is similar, right? It's like you only you are making the work that you're going to make, right? It's not just going to be like, oh, you started as a representational artist and you're going to leave making like pure abstractions. Like that's not going to happen, but like
Or maybe.
or maybe, but like but it's like the ways in which your work is like you can like hone in on things and also like tweak and expand things is what I feel has happened to my practice, like honing in on like technical things and conceptual things, but also like branching out. That's like
Yeah.
super unsatisfying.
The other thing that I would say is that we're having so much rigorous conversation and dense conversation around the things that we're making and the things that our peers are making, that even if the work looks ostensibly similar to what you were making before school, the language around it is constantly evolving and the way that it's operating is like even tweaked, like changing.
Yeah.
So I think that that transformation is like, maybe not like the primary goal, but like something that happens inevitably and being open in this process of being in an MFA.
Oh, I'm gonna add like one thing that is actually just really concrete. Scale, speed, and material. All of that has changed and evolved in my work. Like the scale of the work, like in really large scale or really small scale. Well, I was doing really small scale before. Material, like my knowledge of material use and how I experiment with it and how I'm like going through that. And then there's the speed at which you're making stuff. And it's really that when you're talking about the speed and amount, that is just your work is like, gonna have to change. It's just inevitable that it evolves.
I think just to add on, I loved everything you said. I went to Yale for my master's, where the program is very much about challenging and breaking you down as much as possible from the get-go and then kind of building you back up. I don't think we do that here, or that's not like our mission. And we're, very supportive of the inquiries that you want to follow. And we'll, instead of like, you know, arguing and beating you down, we'll have like constructive conversations about it, you know, and kind of build and grow it and challenge it in ways that are kind of rooted in materiality and process as much as conceptual development, which you know, I really appreciate teaching in this way after my experience at school. Someone had asked about like, this is kind of related to maybe the critical theory courses that you take while you're here. I think most semesters there will be at least one theory heavy kind of course. The three critics course, you have a lot of readings. Your first semester, your fall, first year fall semester, what is that? What's the class called with Leora? I forget. Um,
Ooh, it's about like colonialism in art. I don't know.
yeah. I can't remember the title, but it's like a pretty amazingly broad ranging kind of like deep dive into decolonizing approaches within contemporary art, and all of the theory kind of adjusts according to the contemporary conditions of the time. So we're very much like focused on staying present in what the issues in the art world are at large as well. Yeah.
Perfect. All right, back to the questions. Let's see here. It looks like that question was answered. This back to studio. Do students have access to their studio in the summer, or do they need to be registered for summer courses in order to have access? And generally, is studio access 24/7?
Generally, yes. I don't think we don't really, there's no like graduate summer courses that are offered. So, the summer is like essentially you can be in your studio as much as you want. Studio access is 24/7. There's essentially like a 4 hour period from 2 a.m. to 6 a.m. where if you leave, like you're not gonna be able to come back. I don't think it's like, I don't know, like a liability or safety thing. I don't really know. But you can essentially be in the studio, your studio space, like 24/7. And not only like can you be there in the summer, it's like you're expected to be there working all summer. So
We all made a like pretty much a full body of work over the summer, and that was the expectation. But we were very happy about doing that.
yeah.
That's great.
What's up, like your card stops in the middle of the night or something?
I think it's 3
Is it
to
three? It's three.
three,
It's
yeah.
like 3 to 6
Yeah.
or something like that.
And you can be in the building
Yeah.
as like people sometimes pull on nighters and sleep in
Yeah.
the studio. Not often, but it happens. But you can't come back in if you've come out.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
And I believe there's RISD rides too. So if you're working late in your studio and you need a lift back to your apartment, it's an on-call driving service for only RISD students.
And that's 5 p.m. to 3 a.m. as
Yeah.
well. So by 3 a.m., hopefully you're at home sleeping.
and it's I feel like it's much undersold. Like RISD rides are so amazing. And essentially it's like, it's like to bring you to your studio and back. But it's like anywhere within the map that is like on the app, you can take it to.
Yeah.
So it's like
You take
extremely
us to the
helpful.
grocery store, right? Sometimes.
Well, I wouldn't even put it in, but Mike would be like, where are you going? We would just take it there. So they're really nice. You get to know the drivers too after a while, you know, because they're the same drivers. So
Great. Going back to, there's a question in the chat. When you were talking about speed, do you mean that you find yourself working faster, producing more quantity of work once you've joined the program?
Yeah, because I think like, you know, if you're taking time off before school, you have a job, you have other responsibilities. And then when we get here, kind of both the expectation that's kind of unsaid, but also the kind of rigor that you feel from the people around you is that you need to figure out strategies so that you can create things faster so that those conversations can keep moving.
Yeah.
So I think that we all, well, actually, some people work fast and naturally, and so maybe they've been questioned to slow down. Like, can you work on a painting slower? Can you work on something slower? But for the most part, it seems like a lot of us have had to find ways to alter the way that we're making things so that we can like get to what we want to have made faster and then move on to the next thing. Because otherwise, like I would say, if you're making one painting over the whole semester, you can totally do that, but there need to be other things that can be
Absolutely.
discussed and produced so that you can continue kind of like getting the most out of those conversations.
And I also will add on to that and say that that doesn't imply that the quality of the work goes down. If like your work used to take longer or whatever, I think that you like find strategies to push the quality of the work while also maintaining a certain like a certain speed also like rigor.
Yeah, I don't want this to come off arrogant, but I think I am better at painting well than I was before I got here. And I'm also painting faster. So when you're painting a lot every single day, I think that is like something that's going to happen, especially when you have a bunch of people around you talking about the things that you're making.
Yeah.
Perfect. All right, I can help answer this next question, and feel free, Mina, to add any additional information. But can you talk about scholarships for the MFA program? So scholarships are, it's called the fellowships at RISD. Those are awarded based on need and merit at the point of application. So when you receive your acceptance letter, you'll receive your RISD fellowship, and in some cases also an assistantship as well. Awards, like I mentioned, vary based on need and merit. You'll want to fill out the RISD institutional financial aid form after you've submitted your application. It will be in your applicant status portal. By filling that out, you're letting RISD know that you want to be considered for aid. And that's for both international and US students are eligible for fellowships and assistantships. What else do I want to add to that? We did a webinar recently with Student Financial Services about the different avenues for supporting your graduate education. So if you send an email to admissions@risd.edu, you can see that recording. It's also in your applicant status portal as well under the financial aid tab too. But last year, I think about over 90% of incoming grads were awarded a fellowship of some amount. Again, it varies. But yeah, Mina, did you want to add anything about assistantships?
Yeah, everyone gets an assistantship, every single student. So that's like built in. It's not like enough money, I don't know, to like pay your rent necessarily. Maybe, I don't know. I don't think it is. Yeah, no, right? But it is like a helpful amount, I think. And yeah, once you get in, I would be in really close communication with you, talking about your needs and trying to really make the school work for you. That will be my job during admissions. And there are a number of scholarships and fellowships that are available that end up in a very like kind of one-to-one relationship in terms of where the money ends up. But the goal is to support you as much as possible, and we totally understand the struggle. Yeah.
You're muted.
Sorry, my phone was ringing, and my phone's also connected to my Zoom too. So it's like multiple things were flaring up. How assistantships are awarded vary from program to program. So while MFA Painting awards assistantships to everyone, that's not the same for every program. If there's other people attending the session that are interested in different programs. And then also for some international students, there is an additional step. You do need to get a Social Security card before you can actually start work in assistantships. So there might be a little bit of a delay in that. All right. Next question. This person's a self-taught painter, like Princeton, and curious if a ceramic focus could. I'm curious if, as a ceramic focus, I could take this class or have similar classes available to me.
I'm not sure exactly what that question is, but I will say that this is like definitely a painting program. And like if you want to do a ceramics, like you want to take a ceramics class, like you would probably be able to do that in winter session or in any following semesters. But I think like the focus, and there's also like, because there was a student last year that did a lot of ceramics like offsite, and I didn't even realize that she was doing it offsite and made like actually some incredible ceramic work. So it is possible, but like the program is definitely oriented around painting, the discussions around painting, the the theories and histories of painting and also like the material problems of painting. But you can, of course, like make other work and bring it to critique, and we're gonna treat it just with just as much like rigor and care as if you made an oil painting.
Can I add one thing? I would say that I'm a person that's not working solely in painting. I work in like performance and sometimes sculpture, writing and stuff like that. But I try not to rely on the other departments as a painting student, because there is definitely a distinction here between the disciplines. And so I think like if you are someone who's really interested in making ceramics a lot and making paintings a lot, that might just be something that you need to consider in the places that you apply.
Perfect. Can you speak a little bit to like the cohort size? You may have mentioned this earlier, Mina, but how many grad students are there typically per year?
Sorry that I didn't say that. Right now we have 21 students, which is unusual. Usually we have 20 students, so 10 and 10 in each class, which I think is like a beautiful size. It's big and it's also really, really small. So we can really pay really close attention to each student. No one falls through the cracks, no one gets left behind. Unlike my experience at Yale, for example. Which is twice as big. Yeah. Sorry, I'm like really setting up a but yeah, it's like a really beautiful scaled program. The classes are always no more than like if you have a 14-person class, that's a big one. They're usually closer to around 10. Yeah.
I think there was also like I can add to that, but there's a question about if how often do you get to have discussions as a full cohort? And the program is structured in a way that allows both first year and second years to come together, especially at when we have like midterm reviews. So everyone's like in the same space with all the full faculty. And if you're working with another faculty in another department, you're able to invite people as well into the reviews as sort of like additional support. There's also the potlucks. So when we have visiting artists, there's a committee who like will get together and plan and host the potlucks for that. So there are a lot of opportunities for people to come together. And the studios are set up in that your first year, you're with another person. And all the studios are kind of like in the same building. So you're often going to be seeing each other. So both like formally and informally, that happens.
And we have a part of the school called Grad Commons, which has a set amount of funding to kind of help facilitate graduate students to get together. So like we had 2 first-year students who organized an informal kind of like meet and greet crit night on a Friday night that the school kind of funded food for, and I think it went really well and it looked really fun. So yeah, there are set things like midterms. We do midterms, which is also really special to kind of have our critiques in the middle of the semester. It's not like a final review where everything's like ending. It's very much just one part of the ongoing conversation of your practice and a chance to kind of work with the deadline and create a body of work to get feedback on. But we're often looking at work that's in progress and talking about it as such, although it's often like, you should just stop, this is done. But the way we kind of handle reviews is really generous and thoughtful and not about shutting anything down.
I'll be doing a webinar tonight, actually at 6:30 with the Grad Studies Office. So the
Cool.
Grad Studies Office manages that Grad Commons along with some other research opportunities as well. It will be a joint session with Grad Studies and a student panel conversation as well. So I encourage you to sign up for that session at 6:30 tonight. All right, perfect. Another question. You may have already touched upon this, but are there a lot of group projects?
No,
No.
that's an
mean,
easy one.
Sometimes we like are asked to partner up for like writing exercises or something like that, but like you're never asked to make a collaborative
Yeah.
project together.
Thank God.
Perfect.
I mean,
You definitely can, but I think
But we're painters.
we're
we don't wanna do
painters, we
that.
wanna kind of, while we're alone in a room, you know?
But like, for example, the second years are doing an interview project right now, where the whole cohort is going into your studio and asking questions, and then you're preparing answers. So it's like you're working individually within your own studio, but collaboratively with the whole cohort. That happens a lot, I would say. Yeah.
For sure,
Yeah.
that's all. Yeah.
Perfect. Mina, or anybody, can you speak a little bit about the cohort, the demographic of the students in the program? Like who's like an international versus US, like where are people coming from, the different age demographics?
Yeah. Shoot, I should have these numbers ready to go, but I don't. We have like a really awesomely diverse cohort. Ranging from like early 20s to late 30s, I would say. There are people with children, there are people who are recent grads from college. Um, in terms of domestic and international students, I would say it's like 25% international, right? Each cohort has like 3 students, yeah, at least. So we have students from Colombia, Pakistan, where else? Chile. Yeah, but there's always at least a handful. And then working, within the undergraduate program, there are a lot of international students there as well. Um, uh, and I think, there are a lot of like resources and support systems for international students on campus as well, to connect with each other. Yeah, but I've been really like happy with how diverse our cohort has been, and that's definitely like a goal when we're doing admissions to make sure that we have like a range of perspectives who can work together well. Yeah.
There's also like, I was gonna say, like in terms of the country, it's also people from like all over
Yeah.
like East Coast, South, Midwest, West Coast, which are definitely like different cultural spaces as well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Great. Does the program have any post-graduation opportunities, including teaching fellowships?
We're working on it, but currently no. But there are a number of grants and fellowships that we nominate students for, to kind of help set them up with some cash money before they leave. But those aren't guaranteed, and they're competitive with all other schools too. We do have a lot of students who work with us after graduating. We definitely like hire students to teach. It's not like a given, but it does happen often.
There are also like grants and funding opportunities for like the summer after you graduate. So like grad commons grant is one of them. Like like the Skowhegan tuition thing is one of them. And so there's a few opportunities that like you can still take advantage of for like the summer or fall after you apply, which is cool.
Yeah, and I don't think this is like a reason to come here necessarily, but like our faculty are often on juries of great residencies and stuff like that. So I think like even if the opportunity isn't like solely given to you, if you develop your work and are a good fit for something, and there's like someone that knows you on the panel, that can only help.
Yeah, the faculty spends a lot of time writing recommendations for students every year. Yeah, we definitely, it's like RISD is very much a family, and we keep in touch with all of the alums and look out for each other for years and years after you graduate. Yeah.
We also have a really robust career center as well. And we'll be doing a session with the career center tomorrow if you want to learn a little bit more about the resources that they provide. And Kevin Canozzo, the director, will go into some details about some outcomes as well for graduate students. All right. All right. Would you say the program is mainly a space to expand your craft and knowledge with the intent to really solidify and embody that growth in your work after the program, as opposed to something more residency-like?
It's definitely not a residency. I'm in 4 classes right now, including the one I TA. Last year we took 5 classes. So I think like one of the major benefits, and anybody can correct me if I'm wrong, is like, again, not to reiterate, but it's like super redundant, is that the time we spend a lot of time together as a cohort and as a whole department. We spend a lot of time with the undergrads and we spend a lot of time with the faculty. So I think that unlike a residency where maybe there's just like peer relationships forming and a lot of time in your studio alone, we're getting a lot more than that, especially like studio visits, like just so much stuff. Like we're next to Brown, so there's lectures all the time. There's lectures at RISD all the time. So inevitably it's not like a residency, it's more like it's definitely like school.
Yeah, and it's not like, I wouldn't say that there is a focus on solidifying your practice. I would say that the focus is on like, yeah, like expanding like the boundaries of your practice in terms of like the mediums and ideas and like going deeper into that, whatever it is that you are like really interested in. But at the same time, definitely, obviously like focusing on craft like all the time, like always.
I think it's one of the places where I feel like there's the balance of both, actually. I don't feel like anything is out of balance.
Yeah.
Perfect. What does a studio visit usually look like at RISD?
I mean, that's like,
It's different for every single person because you kind of get to run it. It's your space. And I don't think I realized that coming in. I would like let people come into my space and then let them run it.
yeah.
And then I think in the second year, I was like, oh, I'm like in my space. I'm the one that feels comfortable. I can run this studio visit.
Yeah.
And so I think my advice to people, and I started giving this to undergrads, is that like prepare yourself, make your work look nice in the room so people can easily look at it. Have questions ready for the person. Look up the person that you're having the studio visit with. Is there anything that you could take away from them, even just like reading their bio on the internet?
Mm.
And then also like, what is satisfying for you to talk about? Because you can ask those questions and lead the conversation, and people are very willing. So like we've only had really generous studio visits for the most part. So it's like, I don't feel uncomfortable ever with the people that are in my studio. So I think like setting myself up to have a good conversation is something that I need to be responsible for, and not just put that on the person that's walking into a space they're not, isn't their space.
How much assignment-based work do RISD students make versus independent studio work?
I can take that. I feel like the first semester is especially curriculum heavy. And so I think that first semester you'll probably have like in drawing we had assignments where it was like, here is the prompt, you need to like execute this prompt and whatever your interpretation is. Of course, like in any experience of art making, especially in art school, like you can interpret something however tightly and loosely that you want. I think the emphasis is on putting time and thought into the work. And so I think there are some prompts and like assignments that are meant to like start generating certain thought processes and certain like processes of making. So there's like, I feel like more in the first semester, like a few in the first semester, but most of it is like your own directed work, and every critique is like you're expected to be making your work, and that's the work that you bring and talk about.
And even in the prompts and assignments, it is obvious when you look at the work that people are making that it's related to their practices, that they've already kind of, they have the structure, and then we're just, we are ourselves. So everything is coming from ourselves.
Yeah.
If you make 10 drawings, they're going to look like your drawings.
All of our assignments are very much designed to support you in the studio. So like, learning how to make a body of work out of a painting, for example, would be like one way that an assignment would be designed. Learning how to like challenge an idea from different perspectives would be another way, So having spoken to like many people who have graduated over the years, the assignments have been really useful in terms of like maintaining longevity and growth in the practice, and like having a safe and brave space within the class to really figure out how to make in a really generative way. Yeah.
Yeah, it's also the prompts are really meant to pose you with like a series of problems for you to solve, in regardless of whatever medium that you're working in. And so the prompts will be very open-ended. And it's something that will hopefully take you into your practice even after you've graduated, is how do you problem solve? And to Iz's comment earlier about how the work has changed is that you're able, for her, she's like painting faster because she's problem solving. And once you have those problems that you've figured out how to solve those problems for yourself, it makes making a little easier when you come up on some of those issues. Just to add to that.
That's great, thank you. As we're nearing a little bit towards the end of our time here for the session, there's one great question in the chat. It's for Iz in Princeton. What are your goals post-graduation? Is there an ideal that this program might jumpstart your access to gallery representation post-graduation? If so, do you feel like the program is setting you up with the access to these connections and communities?
I think that I just want to start by answering this question with like this idea that sometimes is misconstrued about getting an MFA, that it is like immediately going to give you gallery representation. And I don't think this question is like saying that, but I think that's like a misunderstanding that often happens when I hear people wanting to get MFAs. So, you know, like I've spent a lot of time in Providence, so I don't feel like I have made connections with galleries. I feel like that's something that I'm going to have to decide if I want to do after school. And now I have the resources and understanding of how I can do that. But it's not like a kind of, oh, you got the MFA, so then the galleries know who you are and they're going to want to show your work. It's you have to really interface, and I know that now. And I think for myself, that's not necessarily my main goal. So if you really want to know, I'm going to move back to my family's farm and I'm going to probably make a weird film. That's my goal. And work at a coffee shop and do some other cool stuff and then apply to residencies. And then also maybe like I will want to talk to some galleries and I'll try to do that too. But I think everyone has a very different path. Like Princeton's path is going to be different than mine. He's rolling his eyes at me.
I'm not. That sounds lovely, actually. I think that like, so also like, excuse me, like setting you up is like such a, I mean, I feel like yes and no, like I think there's a philosophy of this department is like, we're here to make you and to like set up your studio practice for the long term. Right? It's like, if you care about like being like the absolute best artist you can be and having sustainable practice, like this is the program.
Yeah. We want to be artists until we're 80.
Yes. I want to like have a heart attack and like the brush strokes into my last, you know what I mean? Like that's like my ideal life. And I feel like it's setting me up for that in terms of like professional practice or like entering the art world and the gallery world, say New York art scene. I think that is like definitely not the priority. But having said that, I will say that we have so much contact with people who are in that art scene. It's like basically the entire roster of our professors, peers that are like involved in the art scene, like outside of the program that were previously or while they're in the program get involved. And then like visiting artists, critics, trips to New York. And so like there is the brushing up against the art world like constantly. And also like talking about what's going on. And so I feel like it makes it a very like permeable surface, a very permeable threshold to like enter if you want to do that. And like if you feel ready to do that. For me, I plan on like going back to Philadelphia and like living a life, like going back, feeling like I'm an adult and like, you know, living in an apartment and having a studio and like figuring out what my work is after that, after graduating. And then like eventually moving to New York and then eventually moving to Chicago. That's like my.
And I think we would also be lying if we didn't tell you that like having a MFA from RISD does mean something. And when you go to New York and you say, oh, I'm an artist, I go to RISD, people do care more than if you don't have that. So, yeah, I don't want to like seem like we're ungrateful for that experience that we have too. So.
Mhm. For sure.
I love the way you guys just answered that question. It makes me so proud. There is a ton of visibility, for sure. And the level of contact that you have with artists is like a lot. So you guys are all really good at like talking to really great artists and people who are powerful, which I think is like the first step to making sure that if you want to do that, you can. I was gonna say something
Oh,
else.
wait, can I say, well, I was gonna say one thing, which is like, we have so many amazing like professors that work here, but also like visiting artists that, outside of this program, I'd be like, oh my God, it's like, but after doing that for a while, you're just like, oh, everyone's just a person, everyone's kind of normal. All these artists are like a little bit awkward, and it's like, it like normalizes a certain type of like interaction, which is really nice.
Yeah, and the whole faculty, we're all practicing artists with doing galleries and having shows and doing residencies all the time. And once you guys graduate, we'll be peers, and we very much treat it that way. Yeah.
Well, I think that's a great way to conclude this session. I did see some questions about the application and portfolio. Mina had participated earlier in the fall on a faculty panel where she answered a lot of questions regarding the portfolio. If you email me at admissions@risd.edu, I'm happy to share the recording to that session with you. But unfortunately, if we did not get to your question today, feel free to email admissions@risd.edu. I mean, if it's okay, I can direct them your way to help get them answered. But I hope you all found this session helpful. It was great. Thank you, everybody. Thank you, Princeton. Thank you, Iz, for being here. Thank you, Kelly. And if, again, we're here to help you along the way. The application deadline is January 5th. You still have some time. And we'll be posting the recordings of all of our open house sessions to our YouTube playlist daily. So that will be shared to everybody who's registered for the open house. So keep checking your email for that. But again, thank you, everybody. Hope you have a great day.